Hi everyone, and welcome to the Daily Signal's Top 10. I'm Ginny Maltabano, and here with me today is our editor-in-chief, Rob Bluey. We are filming a special episode of Top 10 for you this 4th of July week. We're doing the top 10 moments at the midpoint of 2018. Now, Rob and I are also co-hosts of the Daily Signal Friday podcast, so you should definitely check that out as well. All right, to kick things off at number 10, the Mueller investigation is still ongoing. Here's President Trump.
There's been no collusion. There's been no obstruction. It's all a made-up fantasy. It's a witch hunt. No collusion, no obstruction, no nothing. Now, the Democrats have had massive collusion, massive obstruction, and they should be investigated. We'll see what's happening.
Okay, Rob, it's 2018. I cannot believe we're still talking about this, and neither can the president.
That's right. We're a year into the Mueller investigation, and I think both the president has grown tired of it, as have Republicans in Congress, and increasingly the American people. I think that many of them agree with the president that if the investigators had anything, why aren't we seeing it up until this point? And Ginny, how much longer can we go on? I mean, really, it seems like it's evidence that there's probably not a whole lot there.
I agree with you. I think most people are tired of hearing about it, and it makes sense when President Trump calls it a witch hunt. All right, number 9, unfortunately, we've heard a lot of bias towards women in the Trump White House. Most recently, Sarah Huckabee Sanders encountered some controversy while trying to enjoy dinner with her family. Watch this.
Many by now have heard that I was asked to leave a restaurant this weekend where I attempted to have dinner with my family. My husband and I politely left and went home. I was asked to leave because I work for President Trump. We are allowed to disagree, but we should be able to do so freely and without fear of harm. And this goes for all people, regardless of politics.
So while Sarah Huckabee Sanders stands out because it was so recent, I mean, Ivanka has encountered this. Melania, yes. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen was forced out of a Mexican restaurant. Then they showed up to her house. Why does this keep happening?
It seems like it's a weekly occurrence, frankly, and it's really disappointing. I mean, there's clearly a double standard here when it comes to Republican or conservative women. And I say that because if this was happening to liberals or Democratic women, it would be front page news every day, and we would be being lectured almost every day by the media about how this is inappropriate. And then in some cases you have Democrats and liberals actually celebrating the fact that they are being attacked in this way. You've had feminists come out and say, you know, shame on these women, how dare they work for President Trump, when they actually believe in some of the policies, most of the policies that he's advocating, and in many cases they're actually helping women and all Americans.
They are, but they're chanting shame, shame. You have Maxine Waters saying, keep harassing these officials, don't let them go anywhere, be able to go anywhere. It's disappointing. Number 8, the economic growth has been stunning. We have had record job numbers. Watch this clip from Fox Business back in May.
Now, the jobs created, 223,000 jobs were created last month. In the private sector, that's 218,000 more jobs. In the public sector, 5,000 up. The unemployment rate dropped 0.1% to 3.8%. Now, that's the lowest since April of 2000. That's 0.5% down year over year. Now, there are some revisions from April. April was 164,000 jobs added. That was revised down to 159,000. But March was revised up from 135,000 to 155,000. So the net revisions is a gain of 15,000 jobs. Now, the long-term unemployment, the U6 unemployment, is 7.6%. That's the lowest since May of 2001.
So there are a number of factors that contribute to economic growth, but it does seem like the mainstream media, they don't want to give President Trump any acknowledgement for what has occurred under his administration.
Right. We covered this on the podcast.
Yes.
In fact, we could almost spend the entire show just talking about this topic. I mean, there's so much to cover that the media isn't covering. So record low unemployment for African Americans, record low unemployment for Hispanics, lows for, in terms of the success we've seen from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which is 6 months old now, and the tremendous bonuses and reinvestment in business, just across the board. There's just so much good news to report. And yet, you rarely see any of it, Ginny, and the focus continues to be on things like Russia and these silly attacks on Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Right, which the average American really doesn't care about. They care about the economy. He's had a record deregulation campaign, which has been a huge deal as well. Well, on the other side of policy, we've had several immigration battles ongoing. President Trump signed an executive order. Check this out.
So we're keeping families together, and this will solve that problem. At the same time, we are keeping a very powerful border, and it continues to be a zero tolerance. We have zero tolerance for people that enter our country illegally.
Immigration continues to be so contentious, and even with a Republican president and with Republicans controlling Congress, we still can't really get much done. Why is that?
Yeah, I feel like we're back to 2007 again when George W. Bush was trying to solve this. Obviously, Barack Obama couldn't do anything and exacerbated the problem by trying to do things on his own in the White House. President Trump finds himself in a similar situation. The House has rejected amnesty. There's obviously a big blow up over the child separation issue and the president deciding that he had to take decisive action in that particular case. But Ginny, this is a contentious issue. This is one of the issues that the president ran on in 2016. It's not surprising that there's such a partisan divide in Washington on it. And you would just hope, for the sake of the people who are trying to come to our country in a legal manner and those who are coming here illegally, we can find some sort of solution here that is going to work for our country.
Right. Now is definitely the time to get something done, finally. Now, number 6, President Trump and the NFL, it's been quite a back and forth, but recently he said during a presser that he's willing to work with the players, especially when it comes to hearing them out about pardons. Watch this.
I'm going to say to them, instead of talk, it's all talk, talk, talk. We have a great country. You should stand for our national anthem. You shouldn't go in a locker room when our national anthem is played. I am going to ask all of those people to recommend to me, because that's what they're protesting, people that they think were unfairly treated by the justice system. And I understand that. And I'm going to ask them to recommend to me people that were unfairly treated, friends of theirs or people that they know about. And I'm going to take a look at those applications. And if I find, and my committee finds, that they're unfairly treated, then we will pardon them or at least let them out.
So talk about underreported. To me, this was such a huge olive branch that he was extending to the NFL and their players. I've seen one player write an op-ed, but besides that, I haven't seen the media covering this whatsoever.
You're absolutely correct, Ginny, and it's really quite remarkable that we find ourselves in a situation where the president has made this offer. Now, there are some celebrities who've obviously taken him up on this and who've wanted to engage, but when it comes to the NFL controversy, President Trump is clearly winning on this one. I mean, the NFL made its change in terms of what the players have to do when it comes to the national anthem. And I think it's one of those things where the president knows that the American people are patriotic, and he is deeply patriotic himself. And so as somebody who sees what this president is able to do when people are willing to come to the table, I'm surprised we haven't seen more.
Very surprised, because we know this president is willing to sit down and reach across the aisle and have those tough conversations. They should take him up on it. Number 5, we have had several major foreign policy wins. First, a campaign promise that he campaigned very hard on was moving our embassy to Jerusalem. Watch this.
What a glorious day. Remember this moment. This is history. President Trump, by recognizing history, you have made history.
Next, President Trump threw out the Iran deal that the Obama administration had set.
The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapon.
And then last, perhaps the biggest one, the big North Korea summit took place on June 12th. Watch this.
So we're signing a very important document, a pretty comprehensive document, and we've had a really great term together, a great relationship. I'll be giving a...
There has been so much winning when it comes to foreign policy and the Trump administration, but to me, he really has shown that he's willing to follow through on these promises that he set out for during the campaign.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, this is a president who, when he makes a promise, he wants to keep that promise, and you've seen it not just on foreign policy, but domestic issues as well. I think where many people are surprised by this president, though, is his involvement in the foreign policy landscape, because they just didn't expect him to really have that strong belief that he does. And I'd say the other thing here, Ginny, is this is a president who, as we talked about with the NFL players, he's willing to come to the table and talk to people. So it shocked a lot of people that Kim Jong-un and President Trump would actually get together. But with this president, he's known for cutting deals and trying to get a solution, and that's what he's trying to do in so many areas across the world stage.
He is, and he's not done yet. You know, just today they said he will be sitting down with Vladimir Putin next month while they're both in Europe. So
that's right.
Keep an eye on that. Number 4, we had our first state visit of the Trump administration. The president of France came and visited, and he and President Trump had quite the romance.
Mr. President, they're all saying what a great relationship we have. In fact, I'll get that little piece of dandruff for little piece. We have to make him perfect. He is perfect. Only a prediction. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Thank you.
I like him a lot. And it's an honor to call you my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So Rob, I think the photo behind us really sums up what we saw during that visit. And it did get a little testy during the G7, but while he was here visiting, I really thought it was encouraging to see President Trump getting along so well with these foreign leaders.
Yeah, who would have thought that particularly France would be the one where you've had the success. But even Justin Trudeau in Canada and Angela Merkel, where there was maybe some contention early on. But I think what you've started to see in 2018, even as we've gone through these tariff and trade debates, this is a president who's going to always stand up for America. And I think if you're another world leader, you have to respect that ultimately at the end of the day. I think what the frustration was during the Obama administration was, as he was, famously this apology tour that he took throughout the globe, apologizing for things that America had done. And that's really not, I think, the appropriate role that a president should take. So it's nice to see the president stand up for America.
It is America first, as he says. All right, number 3, President Trump is formally introducing the idea of a space force. Watch this.
Very importantly, I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement. We are going to have the Air Force and we are going to have the Space Force, separate but equal.
When President Trump first brought up the idea of a space force, I think a lot of people weren't sure if he was serious about it, but clearly he is. And even Speaker Newt Gingrich, who was here at Heritage last month, talked about the importance of space exploration, how it's important for America to lead in that as well. What do you think about this decision?
Well, America has always been a leader when it comes to space. I mean, you go back to the Kennedy years and obviously the space race, and now you have the threat of China and the Chinese doing all sorts of things in that territory. So it's clear that the president wants to be a leader on this as well. It's an issue that has really, drawn in some of the contention in the conservative movement, because do you really want them going in this direction? And I think it's one of those things where the president has decided, and Jim Mattis at the Defense Department and others who may have objected are going to have to get in line and lead on this now. And so it's an area where I think there's great opportunity, Ginny, and we'll have to see where it goes.
Yes.
As a Houston native, I mean, you must be excited.
It is very exciting. Can't wait to see what happens. Number 2, the First Lady has really emerged on the public stage. She's been doing a lot of great things, also getting a lot of criticism, naturally, from the mainstream media. Here's President Trump toasting her at the state dinner with France.
And to America's absolutely incredible First Lady, thank you for making this an evening we will always cherish and remember. Thank you, Melania.
It took her a while to come out on the public stage because she stayed in New York for a couple months after the inauguration. But once she settled in, she really has owned what she's doing. She announced her Be Best initiative, but unfortunately, she's gotten so much criticism from the mainstream media. She truly cannot catch a break.
Well, it's a story that you followed closely. And in 2017, you're absolutely correct that she was definitely more of a behind-the-scenes type of First Lady. But emerging in 2018, it's been one of the more refreshing things I think we've seen from the Trump White House, because really the First Lady can play a pretty critical role, and whether it's going down and meeting with the officials in Texas over the issue of child separation and illegal immigration, or doing things on school safety. As we know, Kyle Kashuv from Parkland High School had that famous photo that went viral in his meeting with the First Lady. So encouraging to see, and I hope that she will not let the media criticism get the best of her and continue to charge forward. And it seems that, from what we know about Melania, she's not going to let it bother her.
Exactly. All right, lastly, huge news about the Supreme Court. Justice Kennedy is retiring. Watch this.
I feel that the justices that I am going to appoint, and I've named 20 of them, the justices that I'm going to appoint will be pro-life. They will have a conservative bent. They will be protecting the Second Amendment. They are great scholars in all cases, and they're people of tremendous respect. They will interpret the Constitution the way the founders wanted it interpreted, and I believe that's very, very important. I don't think we should have justices appointed that decide what they want to hear. It's all about the Constitution and so important, the Constitution the way it was meant to be. And those are the people that I will appoint.
That clip you just saw was President Trump promising to nominate conservative Supreme Court justices during a 2016 debate. Rob, you know, a lot of people who might not have voted for President Trump did because they knew he would have the chance to at least appoint one or two Supreme Court justices. How has that played out?
Yeah, so obviously this will be the second. Neil Gorsuch famously being the first. One of the very first actions this president took after being sworn into office was nominating Neil Gorsuch, and Gorsuch has had a already transformational effect on some of the Supreme Court's decisions. And then also we look at some of the lower courts, the appellate courts and the district courts, and the president remaking many of them in the mold of a conservative judiciary. So this stands to be the biggest of them all, because Anthony Kennedy is such a crucial swing vote on so many cases throughout the year. Well, he is part of the conservative bloc, and in many of those cases, there have been some notable decisions. Obergefell, the same-sex marriage case, and some abortion cases where he's gone the other way. So President Trump, obviously, can make a generational change when it comes to this, and the Supreme Court will once again be a big, hotly contested issue as we head to the election.
And another campaign promise kept. Well, there certainly is never a dull moment. If this is the first 6 months, I can't wait to see what happens as we close out 2018. We hope you all had a great 4th of July week. Thank you for joining us, Rob. Thank you. We'll see you back here next week, same time, same place. Have a great weekend.